Hey everybody, welcome to the KidHash podcast. I'm your host KidHash. I'm here with my co-host Gypsy-J.
What's up?
And you guys can follow us on Twitter at KidHash Podcast, or you can find us on Massroots at KidHash. We also are working on a website, and as soon as that's finished, you can find the link on Twitter and underneath the video where you're currently listening to this. Couple of products on the market that I think you guys might be interested in. Some futuristic shit that I'm about to bring up right now. It's called the Plasmatics X, and you can find that at plasmatic.com. I want to be very clear. I'm not affiliated with this company in any way. They're not paying anything for this podcast. They're not a sponsor. But it's an interesting product that I think you guys are, going to be interested in. And essentially what it is it's it uses similar technology to a taser. It crisscrosses two electrical currents to spark your bud without any kind of harmful fuels or anything like that. So you'll get a nice clean flavor profile when you're enjoying your session. Check that shit out. Isn't that futuristic? Nice Plasma X.
That's interesting.
Yeah, cool as fuck. Like I said, not affiliated with the company, just something I think you guys would be interested in. At the very least, it's a nice thing to have people gawk at while you're passing the bowl around. And the second item that I think every self-respecting stoner should have is the Rollable Tool, which is essentially a credit card size combination tool that's got it's got a bowl pick and a scooper, shredder and chopper. It's got a joint holder for various sizes, nail remover. It's got all kinds of tools basically in this credit card shape that just makes the whole experience easier and kind of cool. Again, just something that you guys can pass around the next time you're having a session with your friends, and they can envy you and your stoner Boy Scoutness.
Stonerific.
That's right, stonerific. We're gonna copyright that word.
Yeah.
So what's going on? You last time we talked, you were working on crocheting hats. Where are we at on that?
We are still in the process. Under construction.
Yeah, I took a crack at that a few times recently, and it's kind of a pain in the ass for you people out there. Crochet is a bitch.
It's hard, especially when you're learning off of YouTube.
Yeah, but you know what? That's amazing in this day and age that you can learn something without having an actual teacher.
It's amazing.
You just go and type up whatever bullshit you want, and there it is, right on the internet, straight piped into your room.
Well, the next thing, I'll be working on tie-dyeing t-shirts and stuff, and making the wax melties. The ones the Scentsy stuff.
Oh yeah. The ones that they're like flameless candles. You just keep the candle underneath it, and it melts the wax and keeps it nice and scented.
Yeah. Yeah, some of those are really expensive. I'm trying to find a cheaper way to make it, but without all the toxic material and terrible things that can get all up in your system.
Oh, of course,
it's really organic type of wax melt for way cheaper than what they charge.
Yeah, that's the other thing, guys. Anything that we promote on here, by our research standards, we have found that it's, clean. We're not going to promote anything that could potentially poison you or that we haven't done any kind of research on. So, if anything, you can at least know that what we're telling you is safe, or what we're selling you is safe. Speaking of things that we're selling you, we are going to have t-shirts on the website when we release that. And they're going to be we'll probably be releasing 2 or 3 designs initially, and we'll expand the shop from there. So, and as always, you guys are, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or on Massroots and let us know what you would like to see, either on the podcast or on our shop, something that we can, provide you guys for a reasonable price.
We are open to constructive criticism. We don't care if you hate us or love us. We just need some feedback going on.
Yeah, definitely. And we're any topics that we cover on this podcast, we're impartial. You know, there's too many extreme left-wing and extreme right-wing people right now. This is a very volatile political climate. So when you tune in with us, we're only going to give you what we know as the facts, and we're not going to give you a bunch of
fake news.
Yeah, fucking fake news. But we're not going to be feeding you a whole bunch of propaganda, unless of course you consider, you know, pro-cannabis stuff propaganda. And that, if that's the case, then yeah, we're very propaganda heavy. And in cannabis news, Ohio has just recently released some new guidelines that they've established for their medical marijuana scene that they're working on developing. It looks like they're putting the cap at, what was it, 6 ounces in 3 months?
Yeah.
But that refers to oils, herb, any kind of cannabis products, really, edibles. So, I mean, they're technically ranked as the strictest state in the country, but I don't know. I mean, I smoke pot pretty much every day, and I don't know that I could blow through 6 ounces in 3 months. That's a lot of fucking smoking. But there's a lot of people out there in a lot of pain, and they need their medication, so I don't know. Maybe that will get upped once the program is in place and they feel comfortable with it. But we'll see.
A lot of people smoke all day long.
Yeah. I mean, if you got the condition to necessitate that, who am I to say that that's not okay?
Yeah, I've had friends, I don't know, they smoke a bowl. An hour later, they smoke another, and it's just like an hourly thing.
Well, yeah, because they're looking for that peak, and then once the peak tapers off, they don't really feel it because they're perpetually stoned.
I'm the type of person where I could smoke a bowl, and I'd be high for like 5 days.
Oh.
Probably not really, but like the effects last on me that long. Like it just stays there. Like my headspace is just the same the whole time.
That happened to me the first time I smoked. I felt completely off for like 3 days.
That happens to me every time.
I mean, like I said, it only happened to me the first time. After that, I've been solid ever since. I mean, once I adapted, I was set. I was in. I mean, it's consistent. I've got it down to a science for me in particular. So, and I think that, you know, legalization and regulation will help to get it down to a science for more people. As I said on the previous podcast, you know, cannabis isn't even properly cataloged like other plants are. So it's hard for people to get it down to a science, especially the worse their condition is. So I think that Ohio is going to run into some issues with the 6 ounce cap for some of their more impaired patients, and they'll probably have to adjust it. But the fact that they're even establishing any kind of guidelines and they're taking the matter seriously, that's positive.
I think it's a good start.
It absolutely is. Any kind of movement towards legalization is a good move. It's a starting point. Unfortunately, for any of you that aren't news savvy, Spicer recently in the news said that the administration, the current Trump administration, is going to be cracking down on all drug laws and drug enforcement. And he even actually compared it to the spike in opioid deaths and addictions, which, by the way, if you look at the numbers, statistically, that is not true. I mean, technically, as opioid deaths and addictions have risen, so too has cannabis use, but that's misleading because if you look at the numbers, you'll see that in areas where cannabis is legalized, those numbers have fallen. And I think what you're seeing there is correlation and not causality. Because, as I said, in the states where it's legal, those deaths have gone down. I think what we're seeing when you look at the general numbers is that acceptance has gone up. So more people just happen to be smoking pot at the same time that people are, starting to get into other drugs. I really think it's more of a coincidence, especially based on the evidence that we've seen from places like California and Colorado, where those opioid deaths have dropped dramatically, as well as other crimes. Because, it's hard to rob somebody when you're stoned.
That's true.
There's just no way I could do it. I tried fighting one time when I was high, and I just ended up rolling on the ground laughing with the dude.
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm dead serious. It was like there's no stress, and you gotta have stress when you're in a fight.
The first time I hit a bong, I was so out of my element, and I was at my friend's house, and she made me leave while I was so messed up, and I couldn't even walk into the gas station. I was silent for like 3 hours. Like I just couldn't talk because I was at a birthday party, and I was just sitting there.
That's not a good friend. That's not a good friend for all you people out there trying to get your friends into some heavier shit than they're used to. You got to watch out for them. You got to babysit them. That's your responsibility as their guide. You got to be their spirit guide on that journey. And for you to just kick them out of your fucking house and oh, that's fucked up.
She babysat me for like maybe 30 minutes.
Oof.
Well, I was like running around the house freaking out. And her mom thought I was on something else, but she gave me a Coke, and I had like 14 Pop-Tarts, and then she sent me on my way.
That's so wrong.
They were gross Pop-Tarts.
How could you tell?
Well, they were gross, but like they tasted good at the time. You ever have that? Do you ever have like I'm trying to think of a cool word, like high epiphany snacks. Like it's just it's a whole other thing.
I put cheesecake filling on toast one time when I was super ripped, and it was delicious. I haven't tried it since. It was a one-time deal, sober or high, but it was delicious.
That actually sounds pretty good.
It was pretty fantastic.
My go-to was toasted English muffin with peanut butter and scrambled eggs.
All right, folks, this is a conversation we need to do a general poll on. So everybody listening, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know, what's the weirdest thing that you've ever made when you were high, and what is your favorite thing to consistently eat when you're high?
Oh, there was this one time I had chocolate ice cream with chicken ramen noodles.
Ew! Oh, I want to get sick just hearing that.
I don't know how I did that.
I don't know how you did that. Oof.
I don't know.
That's a horrible combination.
The peanut butter scrambled egg thing, that's still good. That one has stuck with me, even in my sober times.
Well, honestly, I think anything can go with peanut butter. It's such a strong taste, and it's such a good, appealing taste. I've never met anybody that wasn't allergic that didn't like peanut butter.
Okay, what about peanut butter on like a hamburger bun with like the beer battered fish?
Oh, I've actually had that. It was okay, but the different oils, I don't know, it didn't sit well. I've never eaten it since because it tasted okay at the time, but quickly after, I was having an epic battle in my stomach.
That's terrible. I grew up on it, and every time I mention it to somebody, they're like, "Oh, you're sick."
Oh, don't knock it till you try it.
That's true.
I mean, we talked about that.
Except strong, serious drugs.
Well, yeah. Of course. Use some intelligence, people. I mean, when people say don't knock it till you try it, they mean for general, reasonable experiences.
Human flesh?
Yeah.
I'd try it. Bob's Burgers for life.
Yeah, that show's fucking hilarious.
I love that show.
They take a lot of shots at that show in Family Guy, but Family Guy takes shots at everything. They're kind of like that guy Milo Yiannopoulos that's been in the news. He just takes shots at everybody, and I think that's the way it should be. I think you should be able to take shots at anybody, and they should have a good enough sense of humor about themselves to just take it and run with it and dish it back if they have to, but we should be able to say whatever we want. You know, there's too much policing of the English language right now. Eventually, we're not going to be able to say anything except for yes, sir, no, sir. But you know what? We can't even say sir. I already fucked up. I already fucked up because I'm assuming your gender.
Oh gosh, not that again.
So I apologize for assuming your gender. But we're not going to dig into the whole social justice warrior thing on this one. If you guys want some of that, just listen to the last episode. We did plenty of that.
I could go on and on and on about that, but...
The second article that I wanted to bring to your guys' attention was, again, in Ohio. They are opening the first cannabis college, which...
Really?
Yeah, they're... basically, the general aim is to get a thorough training program down for cultivators and sellers and, you know, anybody involved in the process. They're looking to educate. I mean, like I said about the last article, Ohio seems like they're establishing some strict guidelines, but they're doing it for good reasons, and they're actually going about it in a very interesting way.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're going to do something as controversial as this, education is absolutely the most important step, and Ohio they're doing it.
And where is this exactly?
I don't know. We posted the article on the Twitter feed, so if you guys are interested, just check us out on Twitter. Just another reason to go to our Twitter page.
Follow for follow.
That's right. Outside of cannabis news, there was an interesting article that is important to all of us. Even if you're not interested in the topic, it's still something important to consider. NASA just came out with a new discovery, and they just found 7 planets within, I think it was 40 light years away from us. And there were 3 of them that were rocky, potentially livable planets, and that's huge. To find something that close and so similar to Earth, that's massive. I mean, in a situation like that, where you've got this cluster of planets, multiple of them being potentially livable, I mean, you've got the groundwork for a potential super civilization.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, say we were in that scenario, what would we be able to do if we had planets that close to us? That we could just hop planet to planet. We wouldn't be doing cruises in the ocean. We would be doing cruises to another planet. Like, hey, I'm going on vacation this weekend. Yeah, I'm just, I'm going to Exodus 9.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, and
What do you think is on the planet? Do you think, like, there's civilization there? What do you think?
That's a tricky question. There in particular, I don't know. Probably not. But I think it's likely that there is some developed civilization outside of Earth. I think it's statistically nearly impossible for us to be the only ones.
Of course.
So, but like I said, I mean, if any one of those planets spawned life at any point, then that is a huge potential for a super civilization. Just one of those planets has to develop life, and that opens the door for all of them hosting life, even if it's spawned from that one planet. That's just a nice clustered neighborhood.
Aliens.
And yeah, I mean, it's an intense topic, and
that is really intense. I mean, we've been thinking that we were, like, the only planet with...
Well, yeah, that's the human ego.
Well, it'd be selfish to think that there aren't others out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely arrogant.
I think of them as in, like, the green or the gray form.
Oh,
with the big eyes, but...
Yeah, the classics.
The classic aliens.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's important to consider. The problem is, when you consider things like that, and people talk about aliens visiting us and us visiting aliens, a lot of times in the conversation, people forget how much distance there is to cover. And what we're seeing when we look at those planets is the past. Because that light like I said, it's 40 light years away. That means it took light from that planet 40 years to get to us, which, that's actually, that means we're looking 40 years into that planet's past.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's actually not a long span of time, especially on the grand scale of the universe.
The grand scale of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's not a big jump, but it's something to consider, because that means that we have to find a way to go the speed of light at least to even get there in 40 years. So it would take us a long time to get there. So even if we wanted to do something with those planets, assuming there's no other civilizations on them, it's going to take generations to get there. And it would be the same concept for that super civilization, or for any civilization in the universe to get to us. People are so concerned if aliens visited us that they would be...
If they have. Let's be real. Come
on. we're getting into conspiracy territory here. But that's a different podcast. Don't worry. We'll have that episode.
Oh, can we have like Alien Files 2.0 or something?
Oh, we'll definitely have an alien episode. Don't worry, guys. If you guys are interested in that, don't worry. I'll promote the crap out of it on our Twitter page so you know which episode to look out for. But like I was saying, people tend to forget that there's these huge stretches of time that you have to consider when you're thinking of space travel, and when you think of aliens potentially visiting us, and are they violent or anything like that. Well, there's a huge stretch of time that it took them to even be capable of space travel. I mean, think of how long it took us to be capable of space travel, and then think of how long it's going to take us for long distance space travel. We're still trying to work out the logistics of how to get to Mars in a reasonable amount of time and at a reasonable budget. It's, these things, there's so many things to consider that I think by the time any civilization gets there, they've had to have worked out a significant amount of the kinks. I don't think we really need to be worried about that. If a civilization was advanced enough to come see us, they're not stopping here. It's like flying past a planet of ants.
Oh, we're old news.
We are, absolutely. We're not even, I don't think we're even advanced enough to be considered worthy of pets to them.
Oh my gosh, who do they have on their planet?
Well, I mean, like I said, consider how far and how long they've traversed to get here. They have to be vastly more advanced than us. We're still, like I said, we're still working on how to get to Mars. We've only been to the moon one time.
That seems sketchy to me. Do you believe in the moon landing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I do. And I think it's very obvious, and Neil deGrasse Tyson actually mentioned this on the Joe Rogan podcast, or Joe Rogan Experience.
You love that guy.
Which, it's a fantastic podcast. For anybody listening, that is a great podcast. He has all kinds of interesting people on his podcast. Like I said, he had Neil deGrasse Tyson on there just a few days ago. And he has a lot of doctors and a lot of scientists. He's got everybody on there. He gets scientists to comedians to just anybody he'll put on there that he thinks can have an interesting conversation. And Neil deGrasse Tyson actually said something similar about, where we are in our development and just being so... I mean, we're not even close to being as advanced as it would take to get to another planet, let alone having some kind of significant presence when we got there. We're still working on how to get robots there. And he mentioned the moon landing in, I think it was the episode before the last one that he did with Joe Rogan, where if you consider all of the technology that we have, it's silly to even doubt the moon landing. I mean, think about it. We have Teslas because it's expensive and there's nothing there. Why would we go back? I mean, unless we have a plan to execute when we get there, like we're going to set up this camp and then that camp is going to use the very limited material. Like they're still working on how to build stuff there. We would have to use material from the moon to build there. Otherwise, it's too expensive to go there.
Gotcha. Okay.
We've got cars that drive themselves.
Yes, it's not that I don't believe that it happened. I guess I'm just...
I mean,
I don't know. It's just weird.
if you talk to somebody that's intelligent and they're into conspiracy theories and they make the claim that the moon landing was faked, then they can kind of come up with a fairly intellectual explanation as to how and why the moon landing was faked.
That makes sense.
But I think once you consider all of the evidence and not just their narrow focused collection of evidence that they've specifically chosen, it becomes very clear that we have been to the moon. The only reason we haven't been back is that we need to know where to go from there, because as it sits, to the general public's knowledge at least, it's a big floating rock, and we have to use the material that's available when we get there to build. We can't be shipping a bunch of concrete there. So, and I think it was MIT, but it might have been a different university. They were looking at how to use that material, because the material on the moon is very powdery. It's a very light material, and in order to use it, it would have to be really highly compressed. And it's important that they know how to do it properly before we get there, because if anything goes wrong in the construction, the people that are inside of whatever structures are built they'll really suffer. It could be potentially horrific deaths on the line. So they have to know how to use the material and how to build stuff when we get there. That's, I think, the only reason that we haven't really been to the moon, is it has to be viable, and we have to know how we're going to build stuff when we get there.
Well, have you, not to go off topic, but have you heard of the hempcrete, like the hemp blocks?
Yeah.
I want to know why we're not building with those, because they seem to last, what I read, they last like hundreds of years, and it's not like a super expensive thing. Like, it's kind of like the 3D printing thing.
Yeah, hemp is it's an interesting material because it's lighter than wood, just about any wood, and it's the tensile strength of it is incredible. I mean, hemp rope, it's insane how strong hemp rope is.
Oh yeah.
And they've actually built homes out of hemp boards, and they're very, very sturdy houses. But the reason that we don't really use that kind of stuff is because it's all derived from an illegal plant, and they're afraid to open any kind of avenues in this country that can explore that plant, because what happens is if you get into the area of hemp, that means that you have to have hemp plants, and that is most people know about the indica and the sativa plants that have their different effects, but there's a third plant that most people don't really consider. I forget the pronunciation. It's like rudialis or something like that, but this is some real bro science that I'm dropping on you guys. So but there's a third type of plant that has no psychoactive effects. It doesn't have any THC, CBD, anything like that. It's really just like an inert form of cannabis. There's no buds or anything. It's just hemp. And the problem is that if we were to start doing large-scale hemp operations in the United States, then we're going to have these big green fields full of essentially pot plants. And the concern is that people will be planting actual cannabis plants in there.
It's so beneficial, though. Like, in many different forms. Like, you can build with it, you can make bracelets out of it.
Oh, yeah. It's an amazing material. I think somebody actually built a car out of it.
In my lifetime, I just want it to be completely legalized and it not be treated as bad as heroin and meth.
Yeah, that's insane. But the problem is that there's so many wealthy businessmen that are, even today, even with all of the people that are whistleblowing and all of the research that is being done and all of the people digging in to all of this material, we still have so many businessmen that are invested in business models like or industries rather, such as the paper industry or the lumber industry and, similar industries that they lobby to keep cannabis illegal for that reason.
Well, you gotta share.
They don't want to.
Well,
People
they
on Wall
should.
Street do not share. That's why they're on Wall Street. They are there to steal from us legally. That's all that fucking street is. It really is. And honestly, we lost a great comedian when George Carlin died, and he touched on that a lot. And at least once in all of the stand-ups of his that I've listened to, he mentioned the criminals of Wall Street, because that's what they are. They're criminals. They legally steal from us. They pay people to go and lobby and to court these politicians so that they can have their way when it comes to legislation. And, when that happens, you get the Trump effect when it comes to policy. I mean, sure, when Trump was campaigning, he didn't take handouts from anybody and he wasn't beholden to anybody, but he knows a lot of business contacts and he's involved in a lot of businesses. It does him no favors to legalize cannabis. It does none of his friends any favors to legalize cannabis, because they're rich enough that it doesn't matter. Even if they want it, they can have it without, being searched by cops, without having their door kicked in. Right. They're so rich that they don't have to worry about the same laws we do. Like there's the situation right now with Trump where he won't release his tax returns. And I know you're not really politically active, so you might not know about this, but every president before him has just released their tax returns. It's expected. They're a public figure. We should know who we're trusting to run the country.
Right.
And he hasn't released his tax returns. And the reason is because he says he's being audited, and he has to wait for the audit to be finished so that he can put accurate information out. But that audit's been going on since like the 70s. These businessmen, they're professionals at prolonging these kind of things, court cases that go on for decades because they just keep submitting paperwork. They bury these people that are prosecuting them in paperwork so that, and when they get through that paperwork, they just push more paperwork on them so that they can't schedule hearings and they can't keep the process going. They're just stuck in this holding pattern trying to sort through all of this crap.
And that's been going on since the 70s?
For Trump it has, yeah, absolutely.
40 years.
Yeah.
Nearly 50
He is a professional at keeping people tied up to his benefit. And that's what's going on with this tax return thing. It's insane how many tactics these businessmen and these politicians have. He's filibustering the legal system and the tax system. He is doing his version of green eggs and ham on the Senate floor. That's what he's doing. He's just sitting there giving them nonsense to sort through so that they can't come at him for anything real, because they can't convict him or prosecute him for one thing until they know all of it. So even if they did find something in the audits, they have to finish the audit before he can be charged. And it's the same thing for any of his business contacts. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to pay anybody they don't want to pay, because to sue somebody that has that much money, you're going to go bankrupt or die first. They have way more money and way more resources than you to keep you tied up. And they're just going to keep on going about their business, making their money. And all of that money that they're making, they're just going to pipe right back your way and bury you in more nonsense so you can't come at them. It's a
circle.
It is. And I was not a big Occupy Wall Street guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I totally appreciate the gesture, and I love seeing the protests out there. I love seeing it because it's taking advantage of a great system that we have in place that other countries don't. Other countries don't have the right to organize in groups and protest things that they don't like. But, Occupy, they were talking about the one percenters, and they kind of had a point. I mean, that's the thing about all these protests. It's not black and white. None of these issues are black and white.
Mm-mm.
Especially like with the women's movement or the Black Lives Matter.
You gotta pick your battles.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Can't be yelling about everything.
Absolutely. You can't kick and scream about every little thing when we have the best system in the world. I mean, here's the thing about that. We aren't even ranked at the top of the freest countries list.
That's just weird.
But you know what? We also don't have to deal with a lot of crap
that
other countries do. We don't appreciate what we do have enough. And like you said, you got to pick your battles.
You do.
I mean, you can't complain about things, especially when there's so much muddled research. Like, I know a lot of feminists, they'll say things like men get paid more because that's what they've read, that's what's been shoved down their throats, and it's what it is what supports their beliefs, and they just latch onto that information, but it's false information.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was hired, like, I was the only girl that worked for a company, and I think it's because, basically, in that industry, I was a minority, so I was chosen.
What was the industry?
Boat detailing.
Okay, see, boat detailing. That's some hard, grueling work. How many women are going to be applying for that job?
Not many. I was the only one.
Exactly. That's my point. You know, that's what these studies don't take into account.
I needed the money.
I mean,
I was
women...
willing to work hard.
And that's good. That's great. But that's what these studies don't take into account. They don't consider the fact that women, more often than not, will... they take less physical jobs because biologically, women, and I know you feminists out there are going to hate me for saying it, but biologically, most women are not built for manual labor. I'm not saying you can't do it, but you're not biologically built for it. You have to struggle a lot more than your male counterpart that is biologically designed to do physical labor.
I was watching this show, and there was this chick. She was like a shift leader at a yogurt shop, and it was like one of those like undercover shows. She didn't want to do anything. Like when she was training, she wasn't. She was just. She even like flat out said like she doesn't want to work. She just wants to marry someone that has money.
Oh, well, that's poor parenting. Really, her parents kicked in the teeth.
She said pretty people shouldn't work.
Yeah, that's just a bad parent. I mean, that parent needs kicked in the teeth, because that's outside of any other issue that I've talked about on this podcast, because there are dudes that feel the same way, and they end up being pimps because they don't think they need to do anything. They just send the girl out there that they smack around a little bit, and she'll make the money. That's just a shitty person. That's what that is. And that's the other thing. We don't consider that, you know. Sometimes it's just a shitty person.
I'm willing to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important to consider, you know. There are plenty of people out there that are willing to work, and I'm not saying that women can't do more physical jobs. I'm saying statistically they don't do more physical jobs as often. And the harder you have to work, the more money you get paid. That's just bottom line.
I work a physical job.
Well, and that's admirable, but most people aren't in your shoes. Most women are not in your shoes.
That's why I don't understand why people complain so much, because they can if they're willing.
But they're not willing.
That's just a whole other thing.
Yes, we're in an entitled era. That's what happens when you can have all of the television, movies, and porn piped into your bedroom that you want. You just have this expectation that what you want will be there. That's what happens when you can just go to the store and pick up a nice steak and not have to butcher the cow. That's what happens when everything else is done for you and you just have to hand over this paper in exchange for it. And that's why, like we said on the last podcast, I think it's important that people do for themselves. I think that if these people that are in these marches went out there and just had to go hunt a deer, just one, just one, You have to successfully kill one deer. I think everybody should have to at least kill one deer. I think everybody should have to at least do one season of gardening, just so you understand what has to be done to get you the crap that you feel so entitled to have. Because bottom line is, none of us are entitled to jack. Not a thing. We are lucky to be born into this world. And we're lucky to survive it at all.
You're lucky to be born in the United States.
Oh, for a fact. But just to have life, you're lucky. So you're not entitled to anything.
And people that complain all the time, I mean, you have a lot that others don't.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that they don't ever consider. None of these people that are talking about, the wage gaps or anything like that. Sure, we need to do something about the system, and we can always do better, and we should always try to do better. But like you said, I think we need to pick our battles, because we aren't entitled to dick at all. You're lucky to have anything that you have, and there's always somebody that has less than you. Because there's a guy right now that's walking miles in another country just for a little bit of water for him and his family. And tomorrow he's going to do the same thing. And you don't appreciate that you've got these pipes put there by some hardworking individual that carries that straight into your kitchen.
It's crazy to think about.
Absolutely. We don't appreciate how much we have in this country because we don't have to. It's just there. And nobody considers how amazing that is. So the next time anybody listening to this wants to get their panties in a bunch because they don't like the way somebody's looking at them or something somebody has to say that they don't agree with, get over it. This is the United States of America, where we can say anything we want. And that's why this country is the best country. We can say and do whatever we want. And sure, there are laws in place where if we do certain things, we'll absolutely get in trouble, and we'll go to jail. We'll go to prison.
I think it's easier for someone to get offended than, going to jail.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But even in this country, even if you go to prison, even if you go to jail, you still have rights. You still have systems in place to protect you. And we don't appreciate that. Go to a Mexican prison and tell me how you feel. Go to any South American prison and tell me how you feel about our current system.
Most of those prisons, you go in and you have a very unlikely chance of ever getting out.
Yeah, definitely. And we don't appreciate that.
I don't think they get the 3 hots and a cot. I think they just kind of get stuff thrown in there, and if you eat that day, awesome. If not,
Yeah, and if you don't, who are you going to complain to? Nobody that's going to do anything about it.
No.
Complaining's only going to get you beaten in places like that.
Beaten or killed.
So I think that we need to do a better job of just appreciating what we have, It's pretty amazing that we live in a country where everything can be provided for us. But I think we need to do something about the level of appreciation that comes with that. I think every culture has had a rite of passage, something that they've had to do so that they know what life truly is. Back in the day, back when it was violent and cultures were smaller, they had to do something crazy like go kill a bear or, something insane like that. And the people that came out of those situations, they were stronger individuals, and they didn't complain about minor things. They rolled with the punches and they figured it out. And I don't think anybody in this country has to do that enough.
Yeah, people complain about everything these days.
Absolutely. That's because we don't have a bear that we have to go hunt down. It's because we lack challenge. It's because everything is provided and we don't have to do anything.
Well, I'm getting frightened by some of the news headlines that I read, thinking that maybe I should go stock up on canned foods and stuff. What if everything crashes and that's how we're gonna have to live? People are gonna have to hunt and search for water themselves because we won't have plumbing or electricity or anything. I think the people that complain the most are going to be wiped out first.
Yeah, definitely. Because
people think about that.
They don't know what it's like to have to do that stuff. And they never, if they're lucky, they never will have to. But unfortunately, that comes with a certain amount of ignorance. And me personally, I've never been hunting. And I would definitely go. And I intend to go. But I've known plenty of people that have hunted, and I've seen enough and heard enough that I know what to appreciate. You know, you look at these horrific stories about other countries and the atrocities that happen there, and people here are so self-involved and warped into this weird reality that we have that the rest of the world doesn't, and they don't have that level of appreciation. So, like I said, I think this country, we need that rite of passage. You know, not a beer with dad kind of rite of passage. Kind of lame ass shit is that? I mean, you need to go out there and you need to do something that is just going to change your life.
I think we should get a group together and do like some type of like survival class or something, or just like some type of experience. Like go on like a 2-week camping trip and try to, you know, not prepare like significantly, just try to live off the fat of the land.
Yeah, and you know what? That used to be like the expression, living off the fat of the land. That is, it's a beautiful concept, and I think it's something that we need to get back to. As a matter of fact, you and I should definitely organize something like that. We should definitely go on a camping trip soon.
Yeah.
But, you know, for everybody listening, I hope that you've heard what we had to say about just appreciating what you have. You know, when you're done listening to this, I hope that next drink of water you really appreciate it. I hope you appreciate how clean it is.
And I believe we're in the weeks of Lent right now, aren't we?
I don't know. I don't give a shit about that. I'm not.
Okay. Well, some people give up like chocolates for, oh gosh, I don't even know how long it is. I think it's like 6 weeks or something.
See, I think that's some weak ass cop out
yeah,
shit.
that's what I mean. Like some people give up chocolate. Other people are doing these days. They're like each day they're getting a bag and looking at things around their house that they don't necessarily need anymore. And at the end of however many days it is, I'm sorry, I don't know, they're donating to charity or to like the less fortunate. So I think that's pretty cool.
I think that's definitely good. I think more generosity is definitely needed.
But it shouldn't only be in that time frame. I think
you're right. It shouldn't.
Everybody should take a look around.
Absolutely. I think generosity is something that is slowly being lost. I think that there are a lot of celebrities doing their best to promote that, to promote generosity and to get behind causes that really matter. But I think that celebrities, when they do that kind of stuff, I don't think it means as much because they have more. They can afford to lose a lot more than the average person. So I think people really do need to, you know, like you said, I think go get the things around your house that you don't need and find somebody personally that you find them. Go find this person and give this stuff to them because somebody else needs what you have and you don't need it. Louis C.K. has this hilarious bit. That guy is fantastic, but he has this bit that's absolutely true. You know, in America, in the United States of America, we could lose most of our shit and still have more shit than the average Canadian even. That's exactly what he said, and it's 100% true. You know, how many people in this country have 5 TVs? Why do you need 5? How can you be in 5 rooms at once?
That's true.
I mean, it's insane.
I have 2.
And
I have 1 in storage. That's the thing. I use 1, I have another 1 in storage.
Look, I'm not saying you shouldn't have, you know, excess. We are a country of excess. It's a beautiful thing to have excess. But it's important to appreciate the excess instead of bitching about what you don't have. Appreciate the excess. Help somebody else get that excess. You will feel so much better if you can give somebody something you don't need and they do in fact need.
It feels good to give.
It does, and the more you give, the better it feels. And the better it feels, the more you're going to give. It's a beautiful cycle.
I was looking at this picture, and there was a guy, like a young guy, probably fresh out of college. He was running after money, and then in the next little picture, it was him, like, middle-aged with money in his hands, but still chasing the money.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the picture below it of him old with money in his hands, still chasing money, and just, like, at the end, it was just a grave. So, I mean, I grew up with someone who thought about money all the time, was always striving to get more money, always cared about money. But somebody else that I also grew up with, they were the complete opposite. And I think I went that way because I don't want to be, like, working really hard for money to buy things that I don't necessarily need. I'd like to work less, enjoy life more, have a garden and some farm animals, and then just enjoy life for what it is. I don't feel like I was meant to work 80 hours a week for my entire life. I mean, by the time you hit age 4, you start going to preschool, and then kindergarten, and then all of that jazz, and then basically after you graduate, I was 17 when I graduated. I had no idea what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, so I have not gone to college yet. I've gotten, like, I have my nurse's aid license, and I did that for a while, but I don't know, I'm almost 23, and I still don't know what I want to do forever, so I'm the type of person who would like to bounce around different jobs, because I'm not the type of person to get stuck in one job and work it forever. You know,
nobody should. It's insane to do one thing forever. And some of the brightest people in history, that's what they've done, and that's, you know, obviously that's why they were able to achieve so much in their fields. But it's not, I mean, what is so fulfilling about that? I mean, if you focus on one thing, it seems kind of not just boring.
It's just like robotic.
It seems pointless. Exactly.
Like, I know people, they've worked at the same job for 15, 20 years. They work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, 51 weeks a year with their weekends off and 1 week of vacation. And that's what they live for. Like, they look forward to that 1 week of vacation every year. Yeah. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to write a letter to my work saying, hey, I need to go on a sporadic vacation. This is my 2-week notice. I'll probably be back, you know? Like, something like that. Like, I'm not like the type, I don't bounce around jobs, but...
Well, we're stuck in the system that used to work. And, you know, before we had billions, like 7 billion with a B people in the world, and everybody has a computer and a cell phone, and, you know, there are more people than there are jobs. That system that we currently have, it used to work before all that. But now that we have all of that, we have all of these ways of getting food and getting stuff made, you know, with robots, and, you know, even sorting stuff. It's all done through an automated system, so we don't need to work so much, and that's great. It's a transitional phase that we're in, and we have to break the system before we can come up with a better one, because unfortunately the people that are leading our country and our world and leading industry, they are part of the older system, and they are digging their heels in to keep it the way that it is. And unfortunately, as I said, we might have to break the system before it gets better. We might have to stress the system so much that it can't survive without change. And that is going to be massive. And I think that's what we're in the process of, you know. There's a whole lot of business leaders and politicians that are getting behind the concept of a basic living income. A guaranteed monetary amount that you're given just to pay basic bills, food and shelter and health insurance. And, it's supplemental. They give you this small amount to cover the basics, and then you find a way to make the rest of the money that you need doing whatever you want.
Right.
And that's the way that it should be. We should be able to survive by doing the things that interest us. And that is going to be a beautiful age. Because right now, we have so much entertainment and education available to us. But unfortunately, the people that you're lucky to break into a setup like that. You're lucky to get a show. You're lucky for your podcast to be successful. You're lucky for your art to be recognized before you die. You're lucky to get this stuff.
You're lucky to even be able to pay for college.
Well, right, I get that, but I'm saying to be able to do what you want and make money doing it, you're lucky. But that is eventually going to be the norm. Just as we had the old system where you hunted for your food, and then that became a barter system where you could trade something like ironworking for food. And then we went to, money. And eventually, when the system has either broken or transitioned peacefully, and we have all of these automated systems working, there's not going to be enough jobs to keep up with the old system. So people are going to have to monetize their hobbies and their skills, and it's all going to be backed by this universal basic income. They don't have to stress, and nobody should have to stress, especially when we have the ability to make these robots that can do all of these jobs. Why is anybody stressing? Why aren't we just building these robots and just get to the fucking point?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's insane that we're digging into this broken system, and it's insane that we're listening to so many of these old fuckers that just don't want to change because they want to fill their pockets with money. Like you said, that concept of a guy chasing after money while he's got money in his hand. If you killed a deer right now, are you going to follow another deer that you see? No, you're gonna worry about the one that you've got. You're gonna eat that meat.
Yes.
So I think everybody needs to, think along those lines. Eat the meat. You don't have to keep collecting meat. Just eat the meat and then go get more.
Well, yeah, think about it. If you don't eat the meat that you have, it will go bad.
Yeah, and obviously, money doesn't go bad, but it doesn't do you any good just sitting in your account.
No.
It's
you gotta
just
spend
wasteful.
money to make money, but it's not really. Making money isn't my wish.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's a good place for us to wrap it up. Everybody listening, just we appreciate you listening, and I hope you take away from this conversation. Appreciate what you have. Like I said, the next time you take a drink of water from your faucet, appreciate the fact that water just got piped into your kitchen. The next time you're sitting there on your ass enjoying your programming on television, appreciate the fact that you get to do that.
Appreciate the fact that you have a toilet.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to go out to the lake.
Absolutely. So I think the takeaway from this is that everybody can be a little more generous. Everybody can be a little more appreciative, and I hope that that's the takeaway that our listeners have. And it's just, I think it's a good way to live life, and I think it's a good way to reduce stress. You keep a positive attitude, it's cyclical, just as much as a bad attitude is. If you wake up with a pissy attitude and you don't change that immediately, the rest of your day is going to be shit.
Not only that, bad attitude spreads to other people.
Absolutely. Do not be the cancer, be the cure.
That is amazing. I like that.
I think it's important, and bad attitudes, greediness, and ignorance.
There is so much
all of this. It's the cancer of our society. So everybody should do their part. The next time you want to yell at somebody, don't. Seriously, take take a deep breath and ask yourself why you want to yell at that person. Is it your fault? Maybe it is. There's a good chance it is. There's a good chance that to some degree any conflict that you have is your fault. So consider that before you try blaming other people, and just try to spread those good vibes. Our tagline here is get lifted, stay positive. Stay positive. It's important. And you, just by staying positive and spreading positivity, you can help the world as much as anybody else. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for listening. I hope you keep coming back. And you can follow us on Twitter at KidHash Podcast and on Massroots at KidHash. You got anything else you want to add to the listeners before we get off here?
I appreciate the people listening and following along. Just thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Hopefully you guys like it enough to spread the word and keep us going. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep getting better. Reach out to us on Twitter. Reach out to us on our email. Reach out to us on Massroots. Just reach out. Let us know what you think. Leave comments on YouTube. We read it all personally. We're a small operation, and even no matter how big we get, we're gonna read all of this personally because we want to know what you guys have to say. We want to know what you want to hear, and we want to know what you think. We want to know what you want. How can we help you? How can we improve your day? How can we spread more positivity your way? So just let us know, and we'll do the best that we can, because we do appreciate you guys. And I hope you appreciate the other people in your life. So, later, bitches.